In this video, we'll be taking a look at Asajj Ventress for the Clone Wars 2008 line. This was one of the, maybe not the initial wave, but she was in one of the initial action figures within the first 20, I think it was, released during the Clone Wars line. It's a really good action figure. This is this is the first Asajj Ventress I ever owned. I did get this back in 2008. I distinctively recall going to Walmart and seeing her and getting it at the time. I debated between her and the 212th Phase 1 clone, and I decided to go with Ventress. Unfortunately, I do not have any of the 212 Phase 1 clones from the Clone Wars line. I wish I had at least one. That is one I'm keeping an eye out for every now and then. And that figure and Ventress here were released at the same wave, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, I'm happy I have this action figure. It's really good. And it's been a part of my collection for 15 years now at this point. It is, as far as tooling goes, this might be the best Ventress that Hasbro has made. And that's not really saying much because, or for 3 3/4 inch scale that is. I do have the comic book one reviewed on the channel, which is a solid action figure and probably the best Tartakovsky influenced Ventress out there. Unfortunately, the legs are kind of wonky, so she can't stand very well unless you have a stand on her. This one, though, has very articulated legs, and even without a stand, she can stand pretty good on her own. And with the skirt she has, even if standing is a little bit of a problem for her, that skirt is firm enough to where it can help keep her upright. So let's just go ahead and dive into this figure. And she doesn't always hold her lightsabers the best, especially this one. The grip she has is kind of big. So Ventress, for the most part, is pretty faithful to the Tartakovsky interpretation of her within this line of the Clone Wars. She does look much different, though. Much more detailing in her head with the tattoos. It's a good head sculpt, good paint detailing overall. Lots of blues and occasional purples, I would say. She has her cloth skirt here, which is a very thick material. And her legs. Yeah. And her skirt is able to be posed if you wanted to do that. So you can get it where she's maybe using force speed, or maybe she's in the wind or something like that. In terms of the articulation, she does have a ball joint ahead. Pretty good range of motion. She can look down and look up, and it has good side-to-side motion. She does have hinge at the shoulders. No elbow articulation, unfortunately. That's the one fault about her, I suppose. But it's not too big of a deal. It hasn't really been a hindrance. But she does have swivel forearms. And she does have a swivel waist, and swivel hips, and hinged knees, and hinged ankles. Maybe they felt since her arms are so thin that maybe they would have a hard time putting a joint in there. In terms of weapons and accessories, so technically her skirt here is an extra accessory. What you do is you would take this belt buckle off, and then you can, well, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and do it. So you can take the skirt off, which isn't too terribly difficult. Let's see here. And I don't think you could really take off her loincloth here. She has some really nice detailing on that as well. I wonder what all those markings mean. But yeah, you could take the skirt off if you want. Gives her some more mobility, I suppose, or if you wanted her to go out in a duel, I suppose she would take it off. And for a belt buckle here, she does have a just plug it in place there. And thankfully Ventress does stand pretty good on a stand. Never really had a problem with her there. Next she has her two signature lightsabers. Although, fun fact about these, if you didn't know already, at least in the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, Ventress's red lightsabers here were Kamari Vosa's from the Star Wars Bounty Hunter video game. And of course, Jango Fett kills Kamari Vosa. Tyrannus takes her lightsabers, and then he eventually gives them the Ventress. Not sure if in this timeline of the Clone Wars that still applies. Kamari Vosa really didn't survive much of a story beyond the video game. You can combine them together, as you can see. Make a double blade out of it. Which looks really good. There are times I have Ventress displayed like that. The next, similar to Count Dooku, she does have a hologram projector, but this time instead of Ventress, it's of Count Dooku. And as you can see in the pose he's in, he has his fist up and looking at the Ventress like, you must do this, or something like that. And you can take that off. So it is kind of hard, similar to Dooku, to really get that leveled. And in Ventress's case, it's because she doesn't have that elbow articulation. It's kind of at an awkward angle. Maybe you can have it as well, similar to Dooku, where it's like she's in the middle of battle and Dooku's trying to call her, be like, hey, Ventress, and then she's like, I'm busy, or something like that. But I think that's really all there is I could show you with this Ventress. Would I recommend it for your collection? I totally would. I imagine a lot of people would argue this is the best 3 3/4 inch Ventress we've gotten to date. It's either this one or the comic pack one. It's hard to say, and it's really not fair to compare the two because they're two different timelines and almost two different versions of Ventress, that is. But this is a really solid action figure, and if you had only one Ventress for your collection, this is not a bad one to have. I think it's a great looking action figure. And before we completely wrap up the video, I'll just bring out the Black Series Ventress here, who I'll be reviewing next. And obviously this one's more of a realistic interpretation of Ventress, but they do look really good together. Some obvious differences, as you can see. That being said though, as far as price is concerned, this Ventress usually runs on the more pricey side. Your best bet might be finding one loose and complete, hopefully. But if you are on a budget and you really want a Ventress, there's nothing wrong with going with there's even one that came out in 2003 in the realistic Clone Wars line at that time, which is a pretty good action figure as well. I don't have that one, but just from what I've seen of it, it's pretty solid for what it is. So any Ventress would do, but if you have this one, it's a great one to have for your collection. Highly recommended. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for plenty more videos in the future. There will be lots more to come. And if you have not already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That way you know when more gets posted. And check out some of the links in the description as well. Thanks for watching.